Born in 1932, my grandfather's story starts in high school. As a sophomore, his parents sent him off to a boarding school by the name of Cedar Lake Academy, now the Great Lakes Adventist Academy. His parents sent him there because money was tight for them, and the students would work at the school to pay their tuition, so his parents didn't have to pay for his tuition. There, his job was to be a janitor, and by the end of his senior year, he was the head janitor for the entire school. At 19 years old, the Korean War started. He knew that he was going to be drafted into the army, so before they could draft him, he joined the Air Force in 1952. He was then shipped off to Greenland for a year to set up a ground radio base as part of a worldwide system. He served an isolated tour of duty lasting only 1 year. He was then shipped back to Andrews Air Base in Washington, D.C. After that, he was then moved again to Illinois to teach engineering to other servicemen. At a USO event in St. Louis, he met my grandmother and they began dating. He was then discharged from the service in 1956, but through the GI Bill, he went to the University of Michigan in 1957, where he married my grandmother and had both of his children. He graduated in 1961, and he then worked for several different companies that took him all around the country. The first one was Nuclear Chicago, that took him and his new family from Michigan to Chicago. He worked there for about 8 years. He didn't like Chicago very much, so when he saw a new job in Kansas, he took it. 3 years later, he moved right back to Chicago. But after another 2 years in Chicago, he remembered that he didn't like Chicago, so he then moved out to Mission Viejo, California.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means.
This is where my dad's story starts. My dad grew up in Michigan, Chicago, and Kansas, but he started high school in Mission Viejo. He had a great time, but at 19 years old, my dad had to register to be drafted. With the memory of the Vietnam War still fresh, this was pretty scary. After high school, my dad went to UCLA, and then he went to the UCLA Business School. There he met my mom, and after college he became an accountant. But after several years of being an accountant, he switched over to the real estate market. After my dad graduated from UCLA and his business school, he decided to stay in LA because he liked it. This was a really good decision for him because later on when he got into real estate, the Los Angeles environment was filled with opportunities who were in the real estate business.
Skate to one song only.
Living in LA also had its downsides. One of these was the LA riots. While my dad did not live too close to any of the riots, living in Marina del Rey, he did have to drive through some of the bad areas to get to Pasadena where he worked. On his drive to Pasadena, he could see some of the fires from all of the chaos happening around him. Because there was no police anywhere, he understood why some people bought guns to protect themselves, as it didn't seem that the police were doing anything to stop any of the rioting.